In this segment, we have two guests. We have Elena Keydel from our social work office, and we have Jennie Sparlin, one of our residents. And we're here to talk about the subject of giving up one's driving, which is something that Jennie did recently.
Yes.
Jennie, did you do this voluntarily?
No.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I'm going to start back a ways. In January last year, I was diagnosed with macular degeneration.
Oh, not good.
And so after 5 treatments, my eye has been fixed. But he said he needed to watch my left eye because it frequently happens again.
Okay.
And in August this year, it did. So now my daughter is driving me to the second appointment with Dr. Wong. And she says, "So Mom, what do you think about giving up driving?" And I'm like, whoa, what?
Not me.
Why? She said, "Well, you don't see very well, and you don't hear very well, and you had your 85th birthday recently, and I think you should give up driving."
And your reaction was?
But I only drive to church on Sunday and every other Wednesday to get my fingernails done or my hair cut. She said, "So it would be easy to give it up, but I'm going to leave it up to you." And that was the end of that day, and she left 2 days later for 3 weeks in Hawaii.
And so you were suing about this, I bet.
I worried, I was depressed. There were other things happening in my life that made me miserable. People would walk by me in the hallway and say, "How are you?" And at first I said fine, but then I thought, I'm not fine. I'm not going to say fine. I'm not fine. I'm unhappy. I'm depressed. Nothing is going right. I don't know how to go shopping. I don't know how to do anything.
So at this point, did you stop driving at her suggestion, or were you still driving and thinking in the back of your mind, maybe she's right?
I went once more because the store where my new glasses were being fixed called to say they were ready, and it was going to be 2 more weeks if I waited for my daughter to come back. So I drove on October 5th for the last time. And the car sat out there, and me holding 2 sets of keys.
Okay.
So I decided if I was really going to do this, I needed to find out if I could go to church somewhere else.
So that was your first step.
My first step
How am I
was
going
to
to do this?
Go to church on Sunday morning at the chapel. And there's an 8:30 service for Episcopalians, and I've been Episcopalian since 1955. So I went. I didn't know if I'd know anybody. I didn't know if I'd be able to hear or if I'd be able to read the program, because sometimes the printing is so small I can't see it. But it was fine. It really was fine. I could hear and I could see, and people spoke to me. And after the service, several said, "We're going over and have coffee at Hunter's Crossing. Would you like to join us?" So I did. And then after a while, they said, "We're going into brunch. Would you like to come in with that?" And it was a lovely Sunday morning. And I've done that ever since that first time.
What a wonderful first step for you.
It was a very good first step. So now
Elena, let's bring you in here. As you've talked with other residents, how typical is Jennie's reaction?
Very typical. Your reaction when your daughter said maybe it's time to give up driving, I hear that all the time from residents and from children of, what do you mean I should give up driving?
Right.
Very, very common. And it's usually the kids that are bringing it up, or the doctor. It's very rarely does it come from the resident, because it's a very hard thing to give up, as you've discovered.
I think Jennie did a great job of saying, I'm going to listen.
Yes, definitely. And, kudos to your daughter for not pushing, for kind of putting the idea out, but then letting it be a bit.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. So my next step was groceries.
How does one handle groceries?
So I heard about this Peapod thing. I went on the computer and I had trouble getting in, but finally I did. I had a lot of trouble maneuvering around trying to find the things I wanted, and you have to order $60 worth in order for them to deliver. And I couldn't figure out how to find a list of what I had ordered already. I mean, I know I pushed buttons, but I pushed the right buttons. So I pushed cart.
Okay.
And it gave me a delivery time of between 4:30 in the afternoon and 10 o'clock at night. And it's like,
Oh, gosh. Did you want to sit at home from 4:30 to 10
well,
o'clock
I'm
at
at
night?
dinner at 4:30. So
Sure.
I scurried through my meal, and I had to leave part of it because I was so worried. And he came at 10 o'clock exactly.
Of course.
Aw.
And the first delivery had 3 broken eggs. So the eggs were a mess, and the carton was a mess, and the bag was a mess, and another bag had 2 yogurts that had opened up and spilled. And so at 10 o'clock at night, I'm trying to clean up all this mess, and I was not a happy
So at
camper.
that point, you thought maybe Peapod might not be a good idea.
Right.
But did you give him a second chance?
I did. And the second time was not as bad. Everything came, but too much. I don't know how I ordered 20 yogurts.
Oh,
I
my
never
goodness.
ate 20 yogurts in a week. But anyway, I tried a third time, and this time with my daughter's help, because I wanted to see if there wasn't a place I could print out a list of what I had ordered to see ahead of time before I asked them to send it. And I couldn't get up to $60.
I've heard that sometimes 2 people will go together.
Yeah,
use
definitely.
Peapod.
Well, see, I don't know anybody else who's doing Peapod,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
that's my problem at the moment. So I said, well, just close it up and I'll work on it later. So Thanksgiving evening, I decided to go back in, and up popped my original order that I had abandoned. So I had to add a couple of things, and we're there. And then I noticed up in the top it said print, so I printed it out.
Okay.
It told me what I had ordered, and it's like, well, I don't need 2 of that or 3 of that. So I went back in, and there's a plus and a
Adjusted
minus
it.
sign, and
Good.
it came at the right time. It's I think I ordered between 8 and 10 in the morning.
And Peapod delivers it right to your door.
Right to your door.
And I've heard some people say that if you wish, some of the drivers will come and put it in your cupboard or in your refrigerator if you need to.
Well, they come in and put it wherever you tell them to put
Yes.
it. I had them put it on my table.
So I'm thinking maybe a Peapod how-to class might have some
Yeah,
merit.
Yes.
that's a good idea.
for
That is a
people
good
who are
idea.
learning
Yes,
to
it
use
is a good
Peapod.
idea.
Because it
Right.
is a different system. It
Right.
does take
Yes.
some getting used to. I know
Yeah.
even just myself using Peapod, it definitely, like you, it took me a couple tries to kind of get it down
Right.
and figure
Yes.
it out.
But
Right.
it's a really good resource. And one thing I had on my list of things to say, that for someone who is stopping driving, one thing that person needs to do if they're not already computer literate, it's a good thing to get computer literate.
Right.
Because one of the things we can't do is we can't get out to the stores like we could, but you can do about anything, order about anything just as cheaply to be delivered to you via the computer.
Well, there is a charge, and I've forgotten what it is, but it's no worse than the driving.
Yeah.
If you drive.
Driving and being tempted by
Right.
other things in the store.
That's true.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Yeah.
So what other challenges have you found?
Well, my next thing was an appointment at Burke Center.
Okay.
So I decided to try a taxi, and I went down to the front desk, and she called a taxi. And he took me right there, a different
So
route.
someone at the front desk helped you find what
Right.
taxi service.
Yes, right. Yes, I could have called from my apartment, but it was just as easy to go down, and
Okay.
he came right away. It was $30. I've taken 3 taxis, and they're all about $30.
So
one way. To me, that's an extravagance. But my daughter and I figured out my finances of keeping a car, and pared it down to how much it was a month, and it's about the same. It is.
You can take a lot of taxi rides before you have the cost of a car.
Right, yes. So the next thing I did was to put an ad up to sell the car. It's probably going to take months, but you can't sell it if you don't advertise it.
Sure.
It was gone in less than a week.
Wonderful. That's good. So now you don't have to worry with the car anymore.
I don't have to worry about
There's
it.
something to celebrate right there.
I don't have to get snow plowing.
Right.
They're advertising snow plowing.
That's
for
right. You don't
business.
have to worry
You
about
don't
that.
have to worry about it.
No more maintenance, no insurance, no
Right.
property
Right,
tax.
it's all done.
Yes.
It's all done. So then I tried taking the bus to Kingstown. And the problem with the bus is
This is the Green Spring bus.
the Green Spring bus. It takes you right to the door, but it doesn't come back for an hour. And I was done in 15 minutes.
So what did that teach you?
I don't know what it's taught me. I don't want to do that again.
Well, this is what I would do. And I've been in your situation in various places we have lived where I didn't have transportation. Number one, never leave home without a book.
Okay.
Number two, when you go into a store and you know you're going to have to wait a little bit, someplace in every store there's a place to sit. If there's a pharmacy, there's always a seating place in a pharmacy.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
There's always, maybe near a windowsill, near the front of the store. There's always a place to sit. Find that place and take a book.
Okay.
Always take some water. Always take a snack. Just be prepared.
Yeah.
Or you can just sit and people watch. But don't feel like you have to stand up and wait, which for me is the hardest thing
Well,
ever.
yes, and I stood outside.
Oh, that's even worse.
Right. Yes.
Especially as
Yes.
weather gets
Well,
bad.
yeah, we don't want you doing that now
Right,
in this
no.
cold weather.
And always make sure you have telephone numbers with you.
Yes.
You know, if things fall apart, if something happens, and
Well,
God forbid you miss a bus.
I'm giving up my cell phone. I never use it except when I was in the car. And so that's another expense that I've let go.
You know, there are cell phones that, for instance, the cell phone that I have costs $7.99. I only went for the best, I want you to understand. And it's a plan, we don't have a plan, but once every 3 months, we put $25 on it. So the cost is very low. And we only use it for travel and for emergencies. So it's not like we have to buy into some big fancy plan. It's not a smartphone, nothing fancy
Right.
like that.
Right.
But I always have a phone with me. But I'm sure that wherever you are in any store, there's some manager's office that you could use to phone.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, any store is going to let you use their phone to
Yes,
call a cab or call
You're
Green
not
Spring
going to
or
be
something.
without.
Yeah.
Well, another situation has resolved itself,
And that is?
and that is getting my nails done. My friend who lives a mile from Green Spring said, I need to change places where I get my nails done, so I will go where you go. Problem is, you're going to have to change your day because I can't go on the day you normally go.
But you decided to say that'll be fine.
And so we did. So now my friend will take me next Wednesday. No,
Okay.
not next Wednesday. Next Wednesday's the craft fair. We're going on Thursday.
But if worse came to worse, you could get your nails done here. Don't we have manicure service in our salons
Yes,
here?
but I've been with these ladies for 20 years.
And that's
Yeah.
perfectly understandable, but my point is that we have services that
Yes, you do.
if we can't get out, that we can have
We could
done
do it
here.
here. Yes, right.
At Green
So,
Spring.
Yes.
And the one other thing I was going to throw in for people giving up driving is that if we're going someplace unusual and we're using metro and buses to do that, don't be afraid to take a trial run for how to get there. And I used to do this if especially work-related things or maybe an important appointment, and I wanted to make sure I got there, to take a trial run. See what combination of buses and metros I had to do to get there. If you're using those things so that you're not at the last minute trying to say, I'm on the right bus, am I on the right train, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to try to get there.
And don't be afraid to ask. You know, if you get on a bus
God,
and you're
yes.
not sure, ask the driver. I need to go to
Right.
Springfield Mall. Does this go there? Or,
Yes.
other travelers on the metro. Am I
People
going
are
in the
so
right
willing to
direction?
help.
They want to help. They want to be
It's
friendly.
DC. Everybody here has only lived here for 2 weeks. They were all tourists before, and they're always willing to help. That's very good advice. I had a couple of other things there. And I think the most important thing, and you've gotten over this, and I'm not saying this to you, but to others doing this, is fight depending on other people. You've done it with a great sense of independence. Using taxis. For those who have smartphones and can do it, some people use Uber and Lyft quite naturally. But that does take a special kind of phone to do it. And one thing that I think is great about not driving is that you just don't have to deal with the crazy people out on the roads.
Or the traffic.
Or the traffic.
As somebody who does drive, I envy you
Yes.
for not having to deal with the
Right,
traffic.
I think it's something to celebrate,
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah.
it, that you just don't have to fool with it. And you're talking to somebody who, my last job, my workplace was in Bethesda. I did a 2-hour trip by train and bus to get there rather than drive on the Beltway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's just, and that was my choice.
Right.
I got a lot of wonderful reading there.
I did try Green Spring Taxi.
Yes, and that's one last thing
And
before we go.
When
I do wanna hear
when
that.
I called the first time, she said she didn't have any more drivers for that day, and I needed to call far ahead. I said, well, this is 4 days ahead, and she says, no, it's got to be further than that. So I have a dentist appointment in Burke in the middle of December, and I called for that. And so now I have a reservation to both take me and bring me back by Green Spring.
So we have a taxi service, but
Right.
call ahead.
I don't know
Yeah.
how much it will cost, but you don't pay, it's put on your bill.
Jennie, thank you so much for sharing your story this morning. And I see a smile on your face.
Yes.
And can I say that the bottom line is that you're getting through this?
I am getting through it. There's still things to go.
There's
but
still things to
I
go.
will work it out.
It's an adventure. You're learning every
Right.
day,
Yes.
and you're going to do this.
I'm going to do this.
And thank you for sharing it with
You're
us.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you
Elena,
for having
thank
me.
you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll look forward to seeing you all another time, I'm sure.